Today we are talking about Paris 1900, the world's fair that changed everything. What if I told you that in the year 1900, one city on Earth decided to show the entire world what the future looked like?
What if you could walk through the most beautiful city on Earth at the exact moment it reached its absolute peak? What if you could walk through the most beautiful city on Earth at the exact moment it reaches with your own eyes? The single event that launched the modern world.
It is April 14th, 1900. A moment of pure anticipation fills the air. The gates of the Exposition Universelle swing open, welcoming the world to Paris.
In a world with no aeroplanes, no motorways, the extraordinary moment in human history was the Exposition Universelle of 1900. Right here in Paris, where nations converged to celebrate progress, innovation, and the dawn of a new century.
The Eiffel Tower stands before you, 11 years old now, no longer controversial, suddenly magnificent. At night it blazes with electric floodlights, the first structure in history to be illuminated this way, visible from 30 miles in every direction. Below it, buzzed. This breathtaking spectacle draws Parisians from every corner, their faces alight with amazement at the modern marvel that now defines their city.
Pavilions from 40 nations line the broad avenue. Here, the world converged in a dazzling display of human achievement, where cultures met and mingled under one sky.
As darkness fell over Paris each evening, the palace came alive. 5,000 incandescent bulbs and arc lights covering every surface, powered by the most powerful electrical generators ever built. 5,000 incandescent bulbs and arc lights covering every surface, colors shifting from gold to blue to red to white in programmed sequences. Visitors from rural France, many of whom had never seen a single electric light, stood before it and could not speak. One journalist wrote that it was standing in front for the face of God. This was the moment at electricity
From rural France, many of whom had never seen a single electric light, stood before it and could not speak. One journalist wrote that it was like standing before the face of God.
The 1900 Paris World's Fair had a moving walkway, 2 miles long, carrying visitors along the lane at St. Eggs, and then at running pace on a second faster track. Parisians called it Brink. Children shrieked with delight as they raced along the faster track, stood perfectly still, and let the future carry them forward.
Built specifically for the fair and still standing to it in 1900, felt like standing inside the future itself.
And then, in a darkened room in one of the fair's pavilions, something happened that would change human culture forever. The Lumiere brothers were just showing moving images on a train commerce during is one of the first moving pictures. The Lumiere brothers were there, their cinematograph projector showing moving images on a screen to paying audiences, one of the first times in history ordinary people could sit in a room and watch moving pictures. Audiences screamed when they saw a train approaching on screen. They laughed at workers leaving a factory. They watched a baby being fed and felt something an overwhelming emotion of seeing ordinary life made immortal on film. They watched a baby being fed and felt something they had never felt before. The strange, overwhelming emotion of a simple moment, captured forever, stirring the soul in ways no one could have imagined.
Cinema was born right there in Paris in 1900. The Exposition Universelle closed on November 12, 1900. 50 million visitors went home carrying something invisible in their luggage.
The same world that wept at the Palace of Electricity was also a world of profound injustice. The 20th century of the Paris Announced Outre in 1900 would also bring 2 world wars, genocide, and the violent collapse of every empire represented at that fair.
The 20th century had begun, and Paris had fired the starting gun. But here is the shadow side of that beautiful story. Most of the nations celebrating their achievements at the fair were empires. The pavilions were not collaborations, they were displays.
The pavilions showcasing exotic cultures from Africa, Asia, and the Pacific were not collaborations. They were colonized nations were exhibited alongside their artifacts, their dignity stripped away in the name of entertainment.
Paris in 1900 contained all of it.
Progress and darkness,
Beauty and brutality.
wonder and blindness.
The grand fair and the grim street.
Yet beneath the electric glow of progress lay the shadows of poverty and blindness. While the world marveled at the wonders of the fair, the streets whispered stories of hardship.
In 1900, a farmer's wife from Burgundy rode a steam train to Paris for the first time in her life.
My first time to Paris. The world is so vast.
The Eiffel Tower.
With eyes wide in wonder, the farmer's wife from Burgundy finally beheld the City of Light for the first time.
She walked through the Porte Monumentale. She rode the moving walkway along the Seine. She stood before the Palace of Electricity as it blazed against the night sky, and she wept.
Not because it was beautiful, though it was. Yet her tears flowed not from mere admiration of its splendor, but from a deeper well of memory and longing that the blazing lights could not extinguish.
She wept because she understood, in that moment, that the world she had been born into was gone, and the world being born before her eyes was something no human being had ever seen before. She wept because she understood, in that moment, that the world she had been born into was gone, and the world being born before her eyes was something no human being had ever seen before.
That feeling, that terrifying, magnificent feeling of standing at the hinge of history, is what Paris gave to 50 million people in the year 1900. 50 million visitors from every corner of the globe converged here, drawn by the promise of the new century, the marvels of human achievement.
The Eiffel Tower is still there. The Grand Palais is still there. The Seine still flows beneath the same bridges. But the world that gathered on its banks that year.
In the world of gaslight, a lamplighter's flame illuminated the night. On bustling boulevards, horses gave way to the automobile's hum. In quiet studios, the flicker of film began to tell new stories. The city transformed.
Paris 1900. The Exposition Universelle blazes with impossible light. Crowds in period attire stroll illuminated banks, their world alive from blazing moment. The Eiffel Tower stands as a grand dream.
And then, like all the most beautiful things, it was gone.
And that is the story of Paris 1900, a city that stood at the edge of a brand new century and decided to show the entire world what human beings were truly capable of. Hit that subscribe button and join the time from M.